In the 13th century, the Baltic frontier was one of the most hostile, isolated environments in Europe, characterized by freezing temperatures and dense, unforgiving wilderness. Popular history often frames the Teutonic Knights as pious warriors in white cloaks, riding into battle to execute divine providence. The clinical reality of their operation centered on the mundane. Most of their time was consumed by balancing ledgers, calculating tithes, and organizing the extraction of regional timber and grain. By the 14th century, the Teutonic Order functioned as a vertically integrated military-monastic megacorporation. Heavy cavalry won individual skirmishes, but the Knights secured long-term dominance through an industrialized model of colonization and infrastructure. To secure this wealth, they executed systematic military campaigns against the indigenous pagan populations, the Balts, Finns, and West Slavs, who inhabited the freezing Baltic shores. The survival of the order in the Baltic rested on the clinical application of state building and logistics, far removed from the romanticized ideals of a holy war. The order originated in 1190 as a simple field hospital, established by German merchants during the Siege of Acre in the Middle East. Pope Innocent III officially elevated this hospital staff into an independent military order in 1198. After failing to hold permanent territory in the Middle East and being expelled from Transylvania in 1225, the order pivoted toward the Baltic with a new requirement for survival. These early failures established a core principle for the organization. They needed absolute legal autonomy to maintain their holdings. They secured this through two critical pieces of legislation: the Golden Bull of Rimini and the Papal Bull of Rieti. These documents formally recognized the order's right to own conquered land, effectively exempting them from the authority of local monarchs. These bulls placed the order under the direct protection of the Pope, granting them total autonomous control over any lands they seized in the region. The Hochmeister, the Grand Master of the order, operated as the sovereign executive of an economic power, insulated from the traditional political interference of European kings and dukes. The order faced a severe logistical problem. They had to enforce absolute control over a massive hostile territory, using only a tiny demographic footprint of actual sworn knights. Their architectural solution to this manpower shortage was the Ordensburg. An Ordensburg is a highly specialized, fortified military and administrative hub built by the order to process and hold captured territory. These structures deviated sharply from the design of traditional European castles. They entirely eliminated the residential keep, relying instead on a heavily fortified rectangular quadrangle that maximized internal security and storage. The interior layout prioritized utility. Space was dedicated to massive arsenals, strict communal barracks, and the Zehnthöfe. The Zehnthöfe were secure storage facilities, specifically designed to hold collected tax tithes. A single fortress managed a staggering jurisdiction, overseeing up to 370 square kilometers in Prussia and nearly 800 square kilometers in Livonia. From this hub, the local commander exercised absolute authority over regional courts, managed civil law, and controlled supply lines. The Ordensburg functioned as a standardized regional resource processor. It allowed a skeleton crew to extract maximum wealth from a massive radius of land. The demographic reality of the Prussian crusade was brutally efficient. Native populations who resisted were systematically assimilated, deported, or killed. To repopulate and work the land, the order initiated a strategy of importing massive numbers of German and Polish peasant laborers. This imported labor force was deployed immediately, clearing dense woodlands and draining marshlands to rapidly expand agricultural output. For every newly founded city, the order imposed a strict, geometric, grid-based approach to urban planning. They enforced rigid legal standardization across settlements, applying civic codes like Magdeburg and Kulm law. These privileges made the cities easy to administer and trade with across the order's territory. This legal and architectural uniformity manifested in the physical construction of the cities themselves, characterized by repetitive Gothic red brick detailing. This integration of imported labor, rigid grids, and standardized law established a predictable, easily taxable industrial zone where the Baltic wilderness once stood. To manage this wealth, the order established an executive tier led by the Großschäfer. The Großschäfer functioned as the chief sales and buying officers for the entire organization. They managed international imports and exports, issued lines of credit, and directed European real estate investments. Operating from the headquarters in Marienburg, they orchestrated an absolute monopoly on regional grain exports. From Königsberg, they maintained a strict, violently enforced monopoly on the lucrative Baltic amber trade. Notice the low 1400 baseline cost of mass export goods, with wheat at 7 Prussian marks and rye at 5.75. Compare that to imported luxury goods. Ginger sold for over 1,000 marks, and saffron commanded more than 7,000. This massive disparity in pricing leverage provided the order with the capital needed to aggressively undercut and embargo their economic rivals. They routinely engaged in economic warfare, launching naval blockades against the Hanseatic League and halting exports to the Russian Republic of Novgorod. The Teutonic Order achieved total vertical integration. They owned the land, the labor, the fortresses, and the exclusive export rights to international markets. By 1407, the state of the Teutonic Order reached its geopolitical peak, controlling a continuous stretch of territory from Prussia all the way north to Estonia. But the geopolitical landscape had already experienced a massive shift. In 1386, the pagan Grand Duchy of Lithuania officially converted to Christianity and formed a personal union with Poland. This caused an immediate existential crisis. The order's entire legal and moral justification for holding sovereign territory was the papal mandate to crusade against pagans. The Teutonic Order simply ignored the conversion. Instead, they continued their relentless wars of expansion, prioritizing the protection of their lucrative economic monopolies over any wholly religious mandate. They pivoted their military machine against fellow Christians, launching aggressive campaigns into the Orthodox Russian territories of Novgorod and Pskov. Their refusal to halt military operations once their crusading market vanished exposed them to the rest of Europe as a purely secular, hostile corporate entity. The climax of this overreach occurred in 1410 at the Battle of Grunwald, resulting in the total annihilation of the Order's army by Polish-Lithuanian forces. The financial fallout was immediate. To pay massive war reparations and hire foreign mercenaries to replace their dead knights, the Order fell into crippling debt. Desperate to remain solvent, the leadership levied extortionate taxes on their own established cities and local gentry. This pushed their subjects to the breaking point. In 1440, an alliance of local gentry and Hanseatic cities formed the Prussian Confederation to actively oppose the Order's rule. This sparked the 13 Years' War, an internal rebellion that shattered the Order's monopoly from the inside out. The conflict ended in 1466 with the Second Peace of Thorn, a treaty that stripped the Order of its wealthiest territories and reduced the Grand Master to a vassal of the Polish king. The Order engineered a flawless machine for territorial extraction, but the sheer, ruthless efficiency of that machine alienated its own population, bankrupting the very megacorporation it had built.